Right, work this time. This is World Comics Review, impromptu, whatever stream again. I was on Yang Zhao's stream this morning, Japan time, and I promised I'd put up a video, but it's still rendering, so I'll put up something. So yeah, big stack of paperbacks to waffle about, and tonight's poison is Kirin Classic, which is pretty nice. Not always. Kind of got to be in the right mood for it. It's a little stronger than the normal Kirins, but pretty good. And the sound of my fan heater's not coming through too much. Right, this may get choppy because of the rendering of the real video eating up all the RAM. So the computer's got 8 gigs of RAM, but there's more RAM is available. Programmers just make their programs more and more inefficient. So let's start on the paperbacks. I guess very quickly. This is North Korea's most famous comic. Outside North Korea anyway. I don't know about in North Korea. It's a Great General Mighty Wing. And some bloke translated bits of it into English somewhere, and there's quite a few articles about it if you search for it. So that's what tonight's video is about. And very unusually for North Korean comics, it's full colour all the way through. So yeah, more about that in the video that's coming up sometime. Right, what other paperbacks have we got on Yang Zhao's channel? I mentioned I got some Chinese, not comics, but small Chinese paperbacks, so I guess we can go through the pile of those. Got them all in a small shop in Nara. My girlfriend's from Nara, but not Nara city Nara, like a countryside bit of Nara, but I went to the city for the first time since 2016, back in November I think, and there's a couple of bookshops down a really narrow Shotengo, and I went in one of them and it has a bunch of Chinese books upstairs, and I got all the ones with angry looking pictures or cool covers. So here's the first one, which is this. These are all from like the 70s or early 80s. Yeah, just got ones with interesting illustrations. So this one's lots of full page illustrations, very poor quality paper, and very short bits of text with numbers above them. I don't know if these are like poems or like little morality tales or sayings from Confucius or something, I don't know. Yeah, lots of historical stories. This is number 8. You barely see it on the camera. The text on the next page is completely obliterating the picture. Yeah, how many? Oops, I think 24, 25. 24 is there some Chinese classic, the 24 sayings or something. That's what this is, I guess. None of these letters say 24. This means writing or book. Maybe country. It's too stylized to tell. And yeah, that was one of them anyway. This one, nice cover. Old something, speak or sound something, looks like how the Japanese write Korea, but not quite. I don't think it is Korea. Now this one's got some hand annotations in, of course, also in Chinese, so I don't know what they say. If I remember rightly, oh okay, there's lots of illustrations in this one too. Some guy at the seaside seeing some birds. It also seems to be short stories and sayings, but looks some penciled annotations. Lua, I think someone was trying to learn Chinese and they were fairly advanced. This is called Pinyin. It's like how you write Chinese in Roman letters, and it's not showing up on the camera, but never mind. 0 viewers, of course. Never mind. My live streams are basically just videos. I could have just pre-recorded this and uploaded it, but whatever. Maybe I should pre-record some impromptu videos with a webcam. It's much easier than setting everything up. Okay, dog in the royal court or whatever. And these like poems or really short sayings, but not illustrations on every page. Weng up, Tori or bird. Oh, there's some Japanese in here too. Someone Japanese was trying to learn Chinese from this book, and they've like written the Chinese letters and Japanese and pinyin or romaji, it'd be called in Japan. Oh yeah, because there is one, and then up here they've like put a line out to a much more complicated character with the pinyin or Roman letters and phonetic Japanese letters. So I guess this is simplified Chinese. This is traditional Chinese, which is partially used for Japanese writing too, although Japanese writing, some of them are simplified, but simplified in a different way, and that's how to speak it, I guess. Some birds. What's this from? Oh yeah. It's dated 54/11/5, but that's Showa 54 under the Japanese naming and Japanese year system. So Showa 54 is 1979. Okay, another one with some pinyin on the cover. Xiao Dao Hui Di Degushi. Probably terrible pronunciation. There. Xiao Dao Hui Degushi. And kind of nice stylized colour-ish picture. What's in this one? Some seems to be one long story with spot illustrations inside it like this. Also terrible paper with the writing from the next page showing through. I think this one's about the Boxer Rebellion or the Big Sword Society, something like that. So it's like they're like traditionally dressed, but then this guy's in like a modern-ish, communist-ish uniform. He's like trying to organise peasant uprisings, although I guess the Chinese Communist Party wasn't around when they had the Boxer Rebellion. Fighting. There was something called the Big Sword Society. I don't know if they were involved in the Boxer Rebellion or separately, but they were around the same time. And this guy's got a sword. It's either the Big Sword Society or the Boxer Rebellion as a whole, who were against modern weapons. They only used swords and spears and stuff. So yeah, that didn't go very well. This guy's got a big sword, so he must be in the Big Sword Society. And here's some Westerners with big noses and beards being scared of the rebels. Oops. He's got a cannon now. I guess maybe they changed their minds and did use modern weapons at the end. Oh, and keep losing the pages. So he goes from sword to primitive cannon to modern Lee Enfield-ish pattern rifle, or maybe an Arisaka, Japanese one, or maybe the Chinese made a copy of that too. I think the first Arisaka was based on the British Lee Enfield, but the second Arisaka was more Japanified. I don't know much about guns. Actually, there was somebody on the Shitennoji market was selling an Arisaka, no doubt deactivated, but yeah, just selling a real looking gun just casually on a market for anyone to buy without any background checks or licenses or anything. That's good, isn't it? Britain will be like that again one day. Well, of course, the reason in Britain you need licenses and background checks to buy realistic airsoft guns or deactivated guns is because people just go and rob banks with them, but robbing a bank with an Arisaka would be hilarious. If anyone in Britain wants to rob a bank with an Arisaki, you also have to dress up in a World War II Japanese uniform and shout Banzai. That's the rules. Right, Zinquiji. See, that sounds like Spanish. Zinquiji Degushi. Degushi sounds like Deguchi, which is Japanese for exit. No doubt it's not pronounced like that. What's in this one? Not so many illustrations. Did I see some more pencil annotations? Did these all belong to the same person? I was trying to learn Chinese and gave up. There's an illustration. Some old man training his young warrior to sword fight. Very Western looking sword. Or maybe the Chinese had straight swords too, and only the Japanese had curved ones, I don't know. I think the Malays have the wiggly swords. There it's like a camp, like tents. Some tents and, I don't know, I think there's a horse there. Can't see in the camera. No, there's a horse there. The paper's slightly better, as in you can't see what's on the next page when you're looking at it. It's the uprising united peasants making angry accusations of the wealthy landowner and his few loyal guards. So fighting. Let's get some cool illustrations with violence. Oh, here we are. I guess the king or lord or whatever is like turning out the petitioning peasants. Please don't tax us so much, so they have an uprising and behead him. Should have put the camera up and then turn it down. Oh, there's appears to be the words of a song here. It appears to change into the words of a song for this section of the story. Which I've got in the UK. I've got like a French penny dreadful, a centime dreadful, I guess, and it was like a short run part work story, serialized story, but only one story was in the magazine. It's called Frisette. It's about this little girl going on an adventure, and like about a third of it is just song lyrics. I think it's from 1906, I think. I don't know, I have to go back to the UK and get it. And you know, everything else. What else is in this book? So, the guy's training to fight. Synchronized training. I guess the rebels are at their mountain base. They're going to sweep down into the city and take on the corrupt overlords. Not many illustrations now. Oh, that's idyllic farm, no doubt. That's the farm he's going to buy before. Or is this after the revolution and he's old now? I don't know. Carving slogans into the mountains. Like trying to rewrite Chinese history to be like the communist revolution. So we had a revolution and overthrew the overlords, and then they came back again. Then we overthrew them again, and then they came back again, and then we overthrew them for real, and that was the revolution. Right, this one. This one's got no internal illustrations, but the cover just looks really awesome. Looks like a North Korean comic, actually. But yeah, it's got Chinese. And these are propagandists selling newspapers. Nice, like, background of these stacked up wooden villages along the side of the Yangtze or whatever. Is there illustrations in this? I'm pretty sure there isn't. Oh yeah, this is like a play script. So like the characters' names and the lines for them to speak, but it's still like the length of the paperbacks. The extremely long play script. I don't know if kids were meant to put this on at their school or something. Or if it's just for reading for entertainment purposes, like what is it? The Demon Headmaster. That's written in a play script style, I think. But kids just study it at school as if it's a novel. And the last of the Chinese ones is this one, very thin. This one cost more. This one was 220 yen, the others were 110. Illustrations again. Oh, more more pencil annotations with pinion and some illustrations. Once again, oh, this means alcohol. This is used in Japan too. Japan is pronounced sake, and sake is like sake, but also it's the general term for alcohol as well. So, a convenience store where they sell this, they'll have this letter, sake. AC. So Mr. Wang turned on the AC and then he was cold. These illustrations aren't all that good actually, he says. I'll get into that maybe a bit later. There's not really much happening in the story. Now he's asleep. This is like maybe fairy tales or something. These, I can't read any Chinese except for letters, the few letters also used in Japanese which I'm familiar with. Possibly the writing is quite large. Is this aimed at like young children? A pretty simple, simplistic story. I don't know. When's this from? These are all from the 70s and 80s. That's a date on the back. 56. 13th of March. Showa 56. It was posted, written in English. That's interesting. Okay, it was posted to whoever in Showa 56, which is 3, 2, 1, 1981, I think. Offhand. Right, yeah, I showed you one North Korean book. Here's another one. Got this one today from the same shop I got Mighty Wing from. I went over there to take a picture of the shop for the video, which is still rendering and has 25 minutes left. And I thought I'd pop in and have a look. And I've got a art tutorial book. I found another North Korean book, so I bought that. And interestingly, there's a Japanese stamp on the back from Kobe and Mukuge no something. So is this a shop in Kobe that has North Korean books? But this looks pretty old, so that shop might not be there anymore. Still, I'll look it up. Well, there's also this label on the front. That's a sticker, so it could have been like a lending library of North Korean books. I don't know. No, library is Toshokan, so Mukuge is not library, but I don't know. Few illustrations in this one. Very scratchy, not very well printed illustrations. This couple in a city. Seems to be a lot of short stories set in different historical times. They'll sit and begin with dates. 1941. This guy in the mountains, obviously fighting Japan then. This woman in not a Mao suit, a Kim suit, collecting something in the farms. Some more farm workers and stuff. I'll show some more of these illustrations in the upcoming video in HD. These meant to be Russians. Got a big beard and like big square-jawed guys. They're supposed to be Russians meeting with North Koreans on the I think North Korea has a small border with Russia. And this is actually quite a good one. This guy's face, this old man's face is really well rendered actually. Some people in a forest in the snow in 1936. According to that, what else is here? Last illustration up somewhere. So, bloke meeting a shady spiv in a park. Okay, beware the black market here, I suppose. A bit more of this. Right, what else we got? Oh yeah, last video, Fu Manchu. This is not very good. Oh yeah, I guess this is not one of the better ones because this doesn't even read like a story. It's just like a load of unconnected events. So yeah, I finally read some Fu Manchu, and this is kind of rubbish actually. So like, nothing much happens. Just this, yeah, a load of unconnected events, and Fu Manchu's barely in it, and then they sort of, at the end, they climb up on top of a building, and there's like a drug den underneath with some, they get high-ranking members of the British government stoned and get secrets from them, and then they realise Fu Manchu uses the platform they're standing on to spy on people, and then he looks up for a hatchway and slams it down and locks it and sets the building on fire. And they have to escape, and that's the end of it. It's like nothing much happens. So yeah, I'll try another one and see if that's any better. But yeah, this is not very good. And speaking of paperbacks that are good, this one, Whip Hand. I bought this in Kobe a while ago. It's about somebody, a jockey who yeah, champion jockey who fell off a horse and got his hand mangled, and then he became a private detective in like horse racing, and someone else mangled his hand, and he had to have it amputated, and he's got a robotic hand. And yeah, it's like part of the story that he's got a robotic hand, and it's told in first person. What's his name? Something Halley, George Halley, I think. And yeah, this is the second book in a series of 4 about this character. Where? Sid Haley, that's it. So yes, the second book of 4 about Sid Haley, the jockey turned private detective with a robot hand, and published in 1979. But the first Sid Haley book was going to be standalone, and then I think the UK TV channel made a series, the Sid Haley series, and the first 2 episodes adapted the first book, and then the rest were made up for the series. And Dick Francis, the writer, liked the Sid Haley TV series so much he decided to write more books. And yeah, this one's really good. Kind of crazy. Yeah, at one point he teams up with a crazy hot air balloonist who balloons through the flight path to Gatwick Airport. That one knows. That was clever. One more paperback parade. Alright. Why do you think I bought this? Kind of weird artwork in this actually. These faces. So, this comic's bizarre. It's like sometimes realistically-ish proportioned, and then a lot of it's like these weird proportions to show emotions, but most of the books like that. I guess this was wrapped and I bought it, and it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It's only 100 yen. I guess I can try reading it when I do more Japanese. In my job we studied with one of the really advanced classes of doing TED Talks, like watching TED Talks and then answering questions about them. And one of them was about teaching English, and there's it's called like the CRISP or something. It's a list of 2,800 words in English, and if you know them you can understand 92% of English. And I wondered if there was a Japanese equivalent, and there is, but it's 3,000 words, so I'm going to start flashcarding those 3,000 words. And apparently, oh, my connection's unstable. But is it actually unstable? YouTube says this, and then when I watch the stream back it's no different. But my Wi-Fi is really flimsy and cut. No, it looks like the lights are still blinking. Right, just ignore that and carry on. Coming up on 25 minutes. Will anyone actually watch this back? Probably not. much me have beer. Right. Interesting books. First is Disintegration Street by Brendan Swan. Comicsgate comic. This is many pages. Don't know how many. Yes, I think Yang Zhao or somebody else actually reviewed this. Book 2 is on Indiegogo now, but yeah, the shipping's a killer, so I'm probably going to wait for book 4 to be launched. It'll probably have reprints of the earlier ones and buy them in like a batch. Cut my eyes off. Yeah, buy them as a batch, because the books after book 1 are much thinner. There's still quite a lot, but yeah, this full colour, coloured with markers. Like, a lot of the artwork is really kind of simplistic and just done quickly, because he's done hundreds of pages in full colour, so obviously you've got to cut some corners and do it fast. But then when detail is required, he does a really, yeah, when detail is required for dramatic moments, he does more detailed colouring and line art. But then when it's just people talking, it's like, do you really need mega detail? And as I said on comments to a review of this, it's kind of like really surrealist, and these weird things happen. Like, you think the story's going one way and it suddenly jerks and goes in another direction. But yeah, that's made in America by a modern American. It really reminds me of the more psychedelic moments in British 60s spy-fi shows like The Avengers. It really reminds me of them for some reason, because some of these fashions are kind of 1960s-ish. And yeah, so it really reminds me of 60s spy-fi for some reason, even though it's not really anything like that except for the most psychedelic moments of The Avengers, or when a character gets drugged but they can't really talk about drugs on TV, so it just goes weird. Or I guess when the really short bit in The Champions, when they get taken into Shangri-La and get given their powers. That's not the Champions from Marvel or whatever, the British Champions, which is yeah, a lesser known 60s spy-fi series, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, it's like a 10-second bit where they get taken to Shangri-La and get kind of upgraded, given superpowers, and then they're secret agents anyway, so they're like using their powers to do secret agenty stuff. I used to watch it when I was a kid, and then I forgot about it for ages, and all I remembered was in the beginning there's a big fountain outside their office. Then I refound it, and there was a few episodes on YouTube, and their office is in Geneva, so that's why there's the big fountain. That's the landmark of Geneva. And they went to like China, Russia, South America and stuff, but it was all filmed in the UK, so they're supposed to be in the South American jungles, and they're obviously in a boat in a studio, and people are just hitting palm leaves on the windows, and they're supposed to be going for a mangrove swamp. Right, the last one. So my girlfriend and I went to Hiroshima from January 9th to 12th, and we inevitably went to the Atomic Bomb Museum. I didn't actually want to go there because it's kind of not a really good place for a date, but it was raining and freezing cold, so we went somewhere indoors. And I got this. So Hiroshima's Revival, and they actually had this in the hotel room, like a larger format. This is B6, and the one in the hotel room was, I think, B5 or A5. But yeah, this is about not about the atomic bombing itself. That's Barefoot Again is about the bomb and the aftermath. This is about the recovery of Hiroshima. So obviously it begins on the day of the atomic bomb, but then like how the city recovered. So after the city was destroyed, a wounded guy went to the pumping station in the hills, and there was a pump that wasn't being used in a back room, and that was kind of sheltered from the blast, so he reactivated this old pump that pumped water to the city, because the other pumps were kind of in the front of the building and close to the blast, so they got destroyed. But it was kind of up in the mountains. And get the trams running again. I think there's one tram in Hiroshima which was there during the atomic bomb, and it was still running. It's still running today. I think I saw it, but we didn't ride it. Most of the trams there are much more modern. And James May on TV said that the tram that's running was one that was right next to the atomic bomb dome when it exploded. Like the tram that was there. He said that's the tram that's still running, but I doubt it. But yeah, one that was in the bomb is still running today. And one started running almost immediately afterwards, and it was run by schoolgirls, because they're obviously desperate wartime conditions. The junior high students, so a lot of the younger victims of the bomb were demolishing buildings to create fire breaks, because they were expecting a conventional firebombing, and they were kind of outdoors when the bomb went off. So there's a lot of their stories in the museum. Because immediately after the bomb, it's still wartime economy, so the army rebuilt the normal railways, but the schoolgirls at this technical school got one of the trams running pretty much straight away. And they had no change to give people change for tickets, so they just made it free. Hey, that's the trams these days look like this. Yeah. The surviving streetcar, named Hibaku Densha, continues to transport people. Hibaku Sha is the name of people who survived the atomic bomb, so it's Hibaku Densha, which is a explosion-affected train. How they revived banks and department stores, and this goes up to like the 1960s, I think. How they built the Peace Museum, and then the black market outside Hiroshima Station, where people traded items. Blah blah blah. Yeah, it goes up to actually not even later in the 1960s, like 1990s. The new shopping centres that were built around old destroyed buildings, and they've got a little bit of preserved architecture in them. So yes, Hiroshima's revival. I don't think you can buy it anywhere else, only in Hiroshima maybe. It's by Tezuka Productions, although probably made long after Tezuka himself died. Where is it? Something I wanted to talk about, but I forgot. Can't remember now. Oh yeah, the Asahi Beer Hall. To get the drinking culture back. So there's now a modern shopping centre, but part of the Asahi Beer Hall's wall is in the shopping centre's wall. Right, so that's the big stack of paperbacks. 0 viewers, nobody to chat to. And the microphone's working, get this switched on. Right, I guess that's that for that stream then, and the video is still rendering. I guess I'll upload that when it's done.